Welcome to the Innovation Conversation, a podcast about innovators, both in business and real life. Hosted by myself, Ricardo Pascual, and Harry McDonough. This podcast is also sponsored by ODEV Tech. ODEV Tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech. The podcast is also sponsored by Notion.so. Notion is offering 6 months for free for new users. Make sure you check out our website, thestartupevents.co.uk, to redeem this offer. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Innovation Conversation. Today we are joined by Cyrus Wong. Cyrus, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ricardo.
It's a pleasure. Cyrus, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a second-time founder already. I've had my first business where I'm helping Chinese corporate migrate into EMEA. So in simpler terms, I'm basically one of the many agencies that help Chinese corporates do social media expansion into Europe during COVID period. And now I'm working on a fashion tech startup.
So quite busy, but you're also quite young. Obviously, the audience listening in can't see that, but I know you're also quite young. So how did you get started in this whole journey? Because it's a big thing.
Yeah, it has actually been somehow unexpected, I would say, because I never started my first business thinking, hey, I want to start my first business. It just came during the journey. So back then I was a bit of a photographer as well as a videographer. So I kind of liked this area, got my first camera, started shooting around. Then not only am I shooting with friends, but also helping in a lot of school projects. So back then around in 2017, 2018, when I was, I think around 14, 15 years old, I started doing like a lot of these portfolios, started like doing like obviously pro bono work for some of the brands around me, some of the shops around me, creating that initial and putting on social media. And I remember at around 2019, early beginning, this is when I started like posting very frequently, like once every week or twice every week. Kind of forgot already. It was a bit of a blur, but there was multiple posts that got blown up where me back then only having like 4,000 or 5,000 followers on social media have like 30K likes, million impressions in one post. So somehow I got spotted by an agency back then to started helping them produce work. And this is when I started approaching corporate clients, like corporate clients like MG Motor, where really initiated the beginning of the journey where I have a full portfolio of very high profile companies. And this was the period where COVID suddenly hit and when the whole world was like in a bit of a mess where we don't know what is happening. Like, you know, the online situation was kind of bearing. You can't be in a group of too many people. And this is also where the business blew, right? Because big production agency can no longer work at that point. So it really relies back on like us as freelancers to do. So I started getting a lot more job opportunities, not only like editing, but also shooting. And at a point where, because I also am in high school back then, like I was like 16, 17 years old, I couldn't handle all of this. So I started forming basically a network similar to an agency where I pass down some of the work that I do not want to do to other influencers, to other editors or other freelancers within the region. And slowly it expanded to international. And it was also at this point where I got the possibility to pitch actually to the corporate clients themselves of my ideas. For example, during shoots, I remember very clearly one of the first pitch that I was doing was a mall pitch. So it's like a K&, like pitch of how to shoot a commercial of a recently awarded mall, right? So it was my first like idea of like how to put together a pitch deck, how to do a lot of this stuff, how to speak to a room of like 40-year-old or 45-year-old or 50-year-old, right? It was a bit of hectic, right? Everyone doesn't know how to use Zoom back then. No one opened the camera. No one turned on the camera because people was probably dressing in pajamas and stuff. So I kind of get away with my age by like
I was just
not showing.
Like, how did they take that? Because obviously they see this young kid still in high school telling them what to do. So I guess that must have been a bit of a shock, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it is, but I don't think till now they know I'm like 17 something when I was like helping them. So the agency definitely know my age because they had a call with me and they actually invited me to the office to do some work and they were kind of shocked with the age that I'm at. But also I think it is an advantage because I'm such young age. I give an idea to, especially to those clients who really want to capture the Gen Z, like kind of metrics kind of stuff. So since I've got onboarded onto this project, we get this like report, like monthly or bi-weekly, depending on the client needs, on how much engagement is this, what's the growth rate. So I also would be able to see, even though those reports are for clients specifically. And then I see that after I onboarded, or maybe the ideas that we propose, obviously there's a much upgoing trend, like much more hit rate, much more conversion rate. Obviously, the client don't need to know who I am back then, right? They just need to know someone is helping them to earn more money. And that's the most important thing. So I think that's how I get away with it, like using numbers to speak. But I think one very interesting thing that kind of pivoted why these like large companies like kind of like me was the way that I presented. I remember my very first pitch that I was telling you, the mall pitch, right? I failed very miserably, right? I didn't get the job per se. It's my first time actually pitching. My deck was like horrendous, it's just bad. But it was also at that point where they say, I like your idea. I know that you don't have the capability of doing that. So the person from the company actually invited me over to do like a small like test shoot. So, like before the actual shoot, you will usually use your phone to kind of shoot some of the demos and then try to piece together what it's like before you're spending like money to do the actual production. So back then they invited me over, and then throughout that half a year, I slowly get to like talk to more like senior executive, and then also like get granted access somehow, I don't know how, even though I'm not an employee, to the internal portal. Yeah. And because I grant access to the internal portal, the way that I kind of interact with clients changed drastically. I see how they do the pitch book. I see how they do invoices. I see how they do contracts, because everything was in the same Google Drive. So I'm just mimicking, right? I'm copy and pasting. I don't know how they're dealing with like corporate giants, but they have such bad like security. Like I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this, but somehow I still got access to their Google Drive, and I'm still seeing their deal flows. But that's basically how it goes. And mimicking and learning, I think that was like one of the most like important thing for me. And then over time, because of this like mimicking and learning, it get to a point where my deck is similar to basically what the agency is showing to the client, if not even better. And that's how I actually started to get like larger deals job, right? Not only just editing, but the whole video production. And then slowly we moved to a social media agency where we do the back end as well as the admin work. And then I remember in 2021, this is when we hit the metric of earning over $1 million ARR in Hong Kong dollars. And after that year, I also moved to the UK because of study reasons, but it also gives me a much bigger market, because obviously they are trying to expand to UK and Europe. So having someone to liaise the UK and Europe is much more easier to do so, especially I could fly over to certain larger shoots or larger events if I really need to during the weekend. And this even helped like the company like build even further. So it was quite a steep journey, and it was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just trying my best to do whatever, but somehow like throughout it works out, and this is where I am right now. So yeah.
Okay, so that is a lot when you're, I don't know, 16, 17, 18. That's quite a lot to take on. I mean, how did you even manage to not to get started? Because I know how it feels like you're a young entrepreneur, you just want to get stuff done, which I get. But, what did you use as a guidance to because there's so many things that can go wrong. I mean, there's so many doubts happening in your mind.
Yeah, definitely. I think the guidance was just hustling through it, right? Knowing that I think the initial drivers was obviously money, because like back then when you're 14, 15 years old, you don't get much pocket money. So the money I get was quite decent, right? Mm-hmm. I can cover my school fees. I can buy like, not whatever I want, but as a kid at 14, 15, 16, 17, you probably can get whatever you want at that age of time. So I think that was the initial driver, but also I think it was also like me trying to push myself harder, because I always wanted to have like something of my own, right? And also to release the burden of my family, because I come from a single family childhood. Mm-hmm. So because of this reason, this becomes some important drivers at the very initial beginning. Plus, this is kind of my interest back then. I think over time, it kind of changed because it's more driven by contract, right? Because I want to score larger deals. I want to score bigger clients. I want to get bigger deals. So even though I know my company might not be able to do it at that certain point, I know that I can always expand the team if I really need to. Yeah. So that sometimes like when I'm seeing clients, I would overpromise the stuff based on my current capacity. I know that because the contract might be like a year's time. By the time the year ended, I definitely would be able to reach that. So using like this like metric of I need to do it or else like I will break a contract kind of like mindset kind of push me further, which I know now is very dangerous. So you should never do it. But
it's not. Actually, I think that's exactly how you should run a business, which is you overpromise and you try and achieve it every single time, and be very transparent about it. But I mean, you were quite young. I mean, how did you get this drive? It's absolutely mental. I mean, so young, and because most kids your age will be, I don't know, going to the cinema, you know, finding relationships and stuff like that. So, how did that came to be? Was it just a money thing, or was it something else?
I think it's also the environment that I was in, right? My family, my mom put me in one of the best private schools in Hong Kong. And I didn't came from a particularly like wealthy family. Like we were definitely like decent enough that we don't have like, we can live a normal life. But compared to people that are around me at my school, it feels very isolated and single out. So at a very young age, what I would see is like, there would be a family going to Boston to see a Celtics game because Friday is a holiday. For 3 days. And given that Hong Kong to Celtics is like, Boston is like, what, 13, 14 hours, give or take? So like, you just there, see a game and you leave. Like, this is the kind of people that I'm surrounded with. Or maybe they will be going to like out in the sea, maybe going to jets and whatever. And I don't think it impacted me drastically, but it's also, I think it was in this mindset that I know that there's a lot more than what I was seeing or whatever that I was taught at a very young age, right? There's a much bigger world out there. There's a lot more stuff I can see and a lot more stuff I can do. And I think like trying to chase this kind of lifestyle or maybe like trying to be at maybe a much more richer state of like being like in a area where I could kind of mimic this to my kids or maybe mimic them to myself. I think this is an other driver. I wouldn't say it's particularly money, but it's also like when you're growing up in this environment for 6, 7, 8 years, you slowly get influenced and you want to be like them, but you know you can't be like them. So you try to find a way to be like them, kind of like, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Interesting. Like amongst your friends and stuff like that, are you the only one doing this many things, or you have many friends like you? Now, I'm sure you have many.
Yeah.
When you're growing up, did you have a lot of people or not really?
I think not really. I think I was kind of the odd one out. Like, I think realistically, I think my school teachers think I would become a failure or some sort because I'm not listening in schools. My failing grades, like not failing, but near failing grades. Like, given that we're one of the best academic schools, like you're competing with people that are actually studying 24/7. So I'm definitely not great at my school, but it was also because of that I think teachers think I'm out of the book. I'm doing a lot of stuff that is not within the framework or not within the traditional sense of school. And that's why I get called to like detention, I think every other week or so, right? Like this is my, like, this is my high school life, right? I'm working in my laptop when the teacher is talking, and then the teachers come over, take my laptop away, send me to detention because I'm editing some footage for some clients. And then I go back, do the whole cycle again, and I get sent to detention and then get scolded. And then like, yeah, but I think back then there wasn't really a lot of people surrounded me like that. So this is also why I think like communities are very important. Obviously now in London and LSE, I'm surrounded by so many like great people, like very smart, like people at my age, some of them maybe older that have successfully raised money in like their entrepreneurial journey, like been sharing and been like doing communities, having dinners together. But I think this is the kind of stuff that maybe as a young kid, I didn't really think I would care that much, but over time you realize like how important this would help you to grow.
And how, when you moved to the UK to study, how did that feel like? Cultural shock or perfectly normal?
I think it's quite perfectly normal for me. I think I'm quite adaptable as a person, especially when I move from, I think the biggest challenge for me would be moving into Cambridge. When I come to the UK, I moved to Cambridge first for 2 years for high school before going to London for 1.5 years now. London, I think, is the least cultural shock to me because obviously Hong Kong was British colonial. It was a big city, so it isn't really that much of a difference. I think the only difference is that it's less convenient in comparison to Hong Kong and stuff are more expensive. But I think going into Cambridge, the biggest, rather I would say shock is the lifestyle is much more free. Because in a way, it's like you're not constrained by stuff. Even though I'm in high school at that point, I can like literally, I will have free lessons in between. I can leave the campus whenever I want to. I can go to towns during the middle of the day if there's no class, like kind of like semi-university, like lifestyle kind of style. I think this lifestyle change was not shocking, but it was like something that I have to adapt to, but I quite adapted it pretty fast. I think for the second thing that was quite like not shocking, but like something that is quite different is how much more nature there is. Like I remember just like lying down on Parker's Beach, which is like a big park in London with my friends, like for 2-3 hours just talking. And it was like, hey, it feels like a childhood lifestyle that I have been missing for the past like 16-17 years. So I think for a portion of the time where I was like more free during that point because everything is automated in my business already, I started like having a bit of like enjoying life moment for a bit. So I think that was like the best moments and some of the things that really changed when I moved to the UK.
Interesting. And what do you think when the teachers would not scold you for actually working at the same time you're studying? That must have been quite a shock, no?
They still do. I remember back then, like, because obviously in the UK, I'm living in a dorm, right? And back then, because I was shooting products, like product related stuff for like brands, for example, like Oppo, like Hisense, they would ship products to me. And at the very early beginning, where I don't really have a base, where I don't have an office in the UK or a storage in the UK, I would ask them to ship to my dorm. And my dorm master would be like, why is there like 60 phones in my living room? And I'm like, I don't know how to explain. I can't explain what I'm doing because I would get deported. Technically, I'm on a student visa. Am I allowed to say this? You might have to cut this out. I don't know. Yeah, I'm on a student visa, so I'm not allowed to work back then. But somehow I'm working and I cannot tell my dorm master that I'm running a business that is technically legally not under my name because of legal issues and stuff. And then I get like vape sent to my like dorm, like phone sent to my dorm. I have a 15.8-inch TV suddenly gets sent to my dorm as well because it was part of a product shoot. Okay. And then my dorm master was like, what the hell are you doing? So I also continue to get into trouble in UK high school. It's not like I'm completely out of it, but I think after like now when I'm in uni, I go back and visit them and telling them, hey, what I was actually doing back then. And they was like, oh, that was what. So I was like, keep on like sending them updates, like, oh, how I'm doing in my business. Some of the like maybe panels or maybe press that I got, I would send it to them. So we're in very good terms, but it was like also a funny period where because the scale of production get enlarged, these funny moments kind of come on and off like very frequently back then.
I'm curious on one thing because you know your story is absolutely fascinating, but I'm curious on your confidence because you're doing all this. You're a young kid, and you know you're getting to, I would say, a silly problem that most entrepreneurs would probably not have, which is you're technically not allowed to get the products for your business inside the place you're living, right? So where do you find the confidence to manage all this? Because this is like it's a lot of things happening.
I think confidence-wise is an interesting thing growing up in my life. At a very young age, I was actually very, very shy. Like I would cry on the most nonchalant thing ever, like when I was like single digit. And at a very young age, my mom pushed me to do a lot of those like speech festival, music festival, putting me on stage, right? Debates. And I think slowly because I keep on being trained on stage, I don't get stage fright anymore. And over time, this confidence kind of get built upon, right? Obviously, there are moments where your confidence gets knocked down completely. Like, even though like it's such an interesting story, there's a lot of roadblocks, as you can probably imagine, in between that you'd be like, what am I supposed to do? Maybe this is a legal trouble. Maybe there is so many problems. Maybe I nearly like destroyed a contract or, for example. So I think the biggest like way for me to build confidence is just say, hey, if I fail this time or if I'm about to fail, find a solution and learn from it so that next time I would do better so that I don't have to face this embarrassment situation again. And I think this kind of like slowly builds on a lot of the stuff, like building on my confidence. And it really helps throughout the way because I think confidence is also what helps me land a lot of the deal that I'm not supposed to be landing at this certain age of time. I think it goes both ways. Yeah.
And, you know, you obviously develop a very flexible mindset in the sense that you kind of know everything is a learning experience. You just get feedback. There's no right or wrong. It's just feedback. It might be positive feedback, negative feedback, but it's nevertheless feedback. Now, a lot of people really struggle with this. Do you think this was due to maybe a cultural thing, whereas in people are more risk prone in Hong Kong than they are in UK overall, or it's just a you thing?
I think is, how should I say? I think this mindset is seen within the community I'm in right now. Like, especially in a lot of those entrepreneurial circles, like president circles, a lot of them are very like not, how should they, very adaptable to these kind of like failures. Like, you see them fail a lot of the time, even though they won't tell you, but then they thrive from it and learn from it and become a betterment of themselves. I think this is a mindset that is not just a me thing, but it's something that I see amongst a lot of people that are really, really successful, because failure definitely comes. It's just that whether we would tell you we fail in something or not, right? Like, I remember like back in Hong Kong, I received like a letter of like tax related stuff, and I need to go to court to sort it, right? As someone who's like 19, this is like absolutely shocking. And back then I don't even have like a lawyer to help me to do a lot of these. So it's like some of the failures that we receive, or maybe, for example, we got sued over some like contract breaking stuff that I was mentioning just now. And I think if I crumble at that point, the problem still exists, right? My mindset is thinking like, if I have to solve this problem either how or not, even I'm happy or depressed or whatever, why don't I just get it through as fast as possible, and then I enjoy the time remaining? And I think this is what is in a lot of like around the community kind of like mindset that was built out, maybe through the very early ages, maybe through the last ventures, or through some of the stuff that I experienced. But I think this is a very important mindset to have for like people that are like really, really successful, because I think the more successful you are, the more roadblocks you definitely have faced before you have come to this like certain age or certain point of time. Yeah.
Interesting. So you take bold risks and you just keep on pushing. That's quite unique. I think a lot of people kind of struggle just even getting started.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone your age right now about to launch a business?
I think just do it. Like, literally just do it. Don't like go back and be like, I cannot, like, I'm very young. Like, I've seen people at my age sold multiple businesses, like, and this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, they're even more impressive than me. And why did they succeed? Because they do it. Because they did it back at the point where you're probably doom scrolling on Instagram. So I think like this is a really important thing, right? You can have fun, you can relax, you can do whatever, but there's a lot of time, especially in university, especially our age, to explore and discover what you want to do, right? You can do a lot of job applications, you can do whatever you want to do, you can go party all day. The life is becoming more yours. And I think if you have an idea that you want to do for it, first of all, be humble and learn, and really ask people around, right? And also like prove some progress that you're doing, right? Maybe do something, maybe a simple landing page to prove that your things work by getting customers, or maybe like simply talking to a bunch of people to know that this market actually works, or talk to previous people that have been successful and then trying to mimic their route or get the advice. I think these are some of the like more important stuff throughout the roadmap that is really, really important once you have started doing it. It's a really long journey. So I think the next step after you started doing this is to find a community that you're actually in that will support you to do so. Because again, like, I think if you're never in such a community that is supportive, you don't realize how important it is to you. But once you're in it, you can never leave, because it's like the amount of support that they would give you.
California.
Yeah, like it literally is. Like the amount of support that you would give. Like I'm in multiple group chats in this community, right? I've seen someone who'd be like, hey, I just launched this product, try it out, right? And then there will be 80, 90 emojis, reaction, responses, and then people will be responding within an hour saying, yes, I will go on it and hop on it. Like, you don't see this enthusiasm if you're not in a community. And these enthusiasm kind of drive you even further, especially when entrepreneur is often something very lonely, right? Very like solo. It's something that you face a lot of the struggles, a lot of the hardships, and why a lot of people kind of give up in the middle. So I think just do it, definitely as a first, but then be humble, go to events, know a lot more people, and try to get some information out of it. And then be confident, get into a community, be confident. Don't think that just because you're young, you can't do a lot of stuff. I know a lot of people, especially investors, are looking for the next generations, because there are certain stuff that young people can do that is not necessarily what experienced people can do in the industry because of how their risk tolerance level had changed over time. So I think like take this youth and do something that you truly want, and then just take a bet out of it. Yeah.
What do you do on a bad day when you're having?
Well,
I'm sure you had plenty of bad days. So what do you do?
what do I do on bad day? Good food. I love food. Like I literally love food. So call my friends, go get some food in, I don't know, like some fancy restaurants, or maybe like getting boba, or maybe like just sitting down to watch a movie. I think that's something that would.
Why do you say boba? Now I fancy some.
Or maybe go get some Japanese sushi, you know.
No, you're the worst. Like now I'm not. Yeah, that's not good.
But yeah, I think good food do helps. And I think I kind of created this kind of, I don't think I kind of created this lifestyle that I'm doing now that like, you know how like probably you yourself as well have a lot of coffee chats throughout the day. And now instead of asking for coffee chats, I would just ask for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because it finds it more fun to talk over something longer, right? Especially like you get good food, both of you are like happy, but at the same time, you get into much deeper topics. And I think this is something that kind of help like me even in a bad day, even though I know I'm working, even though I know I'm meeting so many people, because there is good food, it cures my bad day, even though I'm working. So yeah.
It's a good system, actually. Yeah, just invite people over for a meal. There's a saying, you should never eat lunch alone, right? I guess it's very true. Quite curious on one thing, because obviously you come from a different cultural background, even though Hong Kong was ruled by the British for many decades, well, centuries. What was the last book you read and most impactful book you read?
I think the last most impactful book that I read was, interesting question. The last book I read was still the same book that you saw last time, really talking about, I forgot what's the name of the book. What's the name of the book? Do you remember?
33 Laws of Success or something. It's by Robert Greene. No, 48 Laws of Power. I think.
Yeah, 48 Laws of Power or something like this. I think it's really impactful because I think once you get to a certain point where you're growing up, you face a lot of different like information and a lot of different like ways that you need to interact, right? Like how do you interact with people older than you? How do you interact with people at the same age as you, right? Once you go into a networking event, maybe a school networking event or a private networking event, how do you successfully balance this kind of dynamic, right? Or maybe if someone is going into an internship or maybe going to work in full time, right? There's just like power dynamics that you often have to like be on the lookout, right? Like maybe it becomes intuitive to you so that you don't really need to care about it, but it's still important to acknowledge it. And sometimes when you have like wind down time, or when you're like talking with your friends, or maybe just having some self like moments to think about your day or think about your week, it's good to identify this moment and see what you did well and what you did wrong. And I think these small little moments can make someone like you a lot and make the conversation goes really well, versus the opposite where they don't want to listen to you continuously and just stump throughout the whole thing.
Interesting. Very good recommendation. It's actually one of my favorite books. I guess I'm curious, what does the future look like now? Because obviously you still have the company started in Hong Kong. So what are you going to do now?
So I think future, I want to definitely build up my fashion tech business. This is a startup that have been thinking on it for a while already, but actually working on it for 2-3 months. So hopefully this could get me somewhere. It's called Styleek, by the way. So it's an interesting company.
Is it live already? Can we see the website or not yet?
Oh, it's not live. It will probably be live in like 7-8 months time. Maybe there will be some like snippets, demos before that, but official launch definitely won't be that early. But I think for me, like not only doing this, but also creating more and more communities, right? I remember I spoke in Shanghai last year talking about how can we build an entrepreneurial ecosystem, speaking at LSE about the same similar topic, but rather than like multinational, really focusing on the UK. I think a lot of people are pretty aware of this already, right? Being in London, we're not like Silicon Valley, we're not like US. There is a different mindset, there's a different funding of capital. But does it mean that in UK or in London in particular, this like entrepreneurial like stuff is really not a good place? I wouldn't say that, because there's a lot of like hidden projects or a lot of stuff that is within UK that are getting pumped out every day, but it's not getting utilized completely, right? For example, a very good explanation, Imperial College have a lot of good projects. They have world-class lab. They have students pumping out research and product every other day within different labs that they have. But they're not people that are really business-minded driven, right? And sometimes what would happen is that some projects over there would get lost in an academic paper, and that's it. But if that got commercialized, it could be multi-million, tens of millions, 100 million idea, but no one actually has this like framework to actually pair different people together, right? The same things happen to Cambridge, same things happen to Oxford, same thing happened to UCL, and even LSE as well, and KCL as well. So building this entrepreneurial framework, building this ecosystem, not only do you have pairing, not only do you have adequate funding, but you're also looking at like the whole global scenario, right? If there is injection of capital from maybe like rich family offices in Hong Kong and Singapore, will they change mindset and start investing in EU or maybe UK like entrepreneurial projects or maybe like startup projects? You see this kind of trends might also change how a lot of this stuff is happening in the UK. So I think like building this entrepreneurial ecosystem is very important. It's not something that one company can do or multiple people can do, but it's something that like is a collective of people can do. I think this is what is very important over time or now when we continue to talk to really like something that I kind of want to build on the side or help on the side if I could definitely alongside whatever I'm doing now. Yeah.
Interesting. And did you ever raise any money for your business?
No, for my first business, it was fully bootstrapped.
Okay, so that's actually quite impressive because not only was it bootstrap, but you actually managed to get it quite successful. So well done.
Cheers.
Cyrus, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way of doing so?
The best way I think would be through LinkedIn. You can find me at Cyrus Wong, so you'll be able to find. Or if you want to see some of my past like projects or some of the past stuff, you can go to my Instagram, which is Cyrus_Momo. It's my nickname for 12 years, I think, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. So do find me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Cyrus, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you for having me.
The podcast is also sponsored by Notion.so. Notion is offering 6 months for free for new users. Make sure you check out our website, thestartupevents.co.uk, to redeem this offer. This podcast is also sponsored by startupnetworks.co.uk. Startup Networks, it's an online forum where you can find all the resources you need to run your startup, from grants to investors to tips and tricks on how to be successful in your startup. This podcast is also sponsored by ODEV Tech. ODEV Tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech.